So we will be live in approximately 30 seconds. I'm going to share the screen now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the University of the West Indies Press virtual launch of Achieving Excellence Caribbean Soccer Coaching Manual by Mr. Roland Butcher. I just want to introduce members of our distinguished members on our launch at our launch this afternoon. We have from the Faculty of Sport, the Dean, Dr. Akshay Mansingh. We are also delighted to have with us His Excellency Gustavo Martinez Pandiani, the Ambassador of Argentina. Welcome, Ambassador. Also, Mr. Randy Harris, President of the Caribbean Football Union and the Barbados Football Association. And of course, the esteemed journalist, Mr. Lance Whitaker, Vice President and Executive Producer of Sportsmax TV. And of course, the man of the moment, Mr. Roland Butcher, the author. I also want to acknowledge those of you that are joining via UE Press's YouTube channel, and also want to mention that you can listen to Newstalk 93 FM stream via www.newstalk93fm.net, or you can download in the Google Play Store the app for Newstalk 93 FM. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It really is a pleasure for me to be your Master of Ceremonies this afternoon. My name is Amanda Reefer of the Faculty of Sport, and I am delighted to be here to share in this momentous occasion with Mr. Butcher, who is a colleague and a former Director of Sport of the Academy of Sport at the University of the West Indies. Mr. Butcher has had a passion for sport development in his esteemed career as a sport administrator, and so we're delighted to be here with him to celebrate this occasion as he launches his coaching manual. So without any further ado, let me first invite the Dean of the Faculty of Sport, Dr. Akshay Mansingh, to give us some of his brief remarks. Dr. Mansingh.
I think I had a slight mute there, so I don't know if you can start again, but it's a pleasure to bring remarks to this occasion. Roland Butcher brings out the best in the versatility of Caribbean people. As all of us know, he was the first person of West Indian origin to represent England in cricket. And yet his first book is on football. And that goes to show you the sort of versatility that exists not only in the region, but obviously in Roland Butcher. He had a distinguished career at the UWI through the UWI Surgical Cricket Academy when that existed, and then went on to become the head coach at the Cave Hill Academy of Sport. And when the Faculty of Sport started, very much an integral part of the Faculty of Sport as well. The beauty of this is that he's distinguished not just because of his love for sport, but because for his passion for educating and his passion for children. And therefore, he fills that missing link in the Caribbean, I think, of documentation of technique and experience. We have the highest caliber of athletes, but not many of them have been able to share their experiences and share their technical expertise, as we've seen in this book and through Roland Hold'em. Just to mark that he was the spearhead of the signing of an MOU between the Faculty of Sport and the Embassy of Argentina and Barbados, which was to have been implemented this year, but for COVID. But certainly by next year, you'll see a lot more alliance taking place there, which is sort of an enactment of his direct role in football in the region. As far as this book is concerned, it opens the door for many other books. Firstly, a volume 2 with advanced techniques, and then hopefully a similar publication in cricket. So Roland, who has been an asset to the UWI, has, by this book and the documentation of his expertise, become an asset to the world. I wish him well, I wish the book well, and obviously the book launch as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mansingh. We really appreciate your sentiments and your comments. And I can tell you that I was very much present with Mr. Butcher when he was negotiating the terms of the MOU with the Argentina ambassador. And so I think it is most fitting that Ambassador Gustavo is here and present for this occasion as Mr. Butcher launches his coaching manual. So Ambassador, over to you to give us your remarks. We would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dean. It's for me an honor and a pleasure to be part of this important event. As you may know, I'm stranded in my own country, in Argentina, since the beginning of this pandemic. So I truly, truly miss Barbados, not only in the diplomatic level, but also in my personal level. I have many, many friends in your beautiful country. So this is kind of a treat for me because it's a way to be in Barbados somehow. I hope in a week I will be able to fly. I will use the first flight leaving Buenos Aires, going through New York. I will have a long trip, but it's worthy because I'm going back to my home, Barbados. So it's difficult to talk about Roland being objective because he's a friend of mine. I really believe that Roland Butcher is everything that is right for a sportsman, for an academic, for a leader, for a reference. Roland was one of the first people I met when I arrived in Barbados almost 3 years ago. And I discovered immediately that he was the kind of person that was going to be very important for me, not only at my diplomatic mission, but also at a personal level, feeling home in my second home, which is Barbados. So this fantastic manual, I like to call it manual because it is a manual. It's a must read. I think every coach of all levels around the world should read Roland Butcher manual because it's a manual, it's a book, it's a guideline, not only to learn how to coach this beautiful sport called football, but it's also a guideline to help those coaches to understand that it's a human level that is even more important than the technical level. And if you want to coach a kid or even an adult, you need to be a reference for them inside and outside the field. And I repeat, I believe that achieving excellence, as the name of the book suggested, is the goal, is the final goal of every sport. It's not only to score, but also to become a better person. And I think that is not it is not an accident that Roland Butcher is the author of a book talking about excellence, because he himself, he is an icon of that excellence. I recommend the book. I know you will have an interview with Sports Max, with our star journalist, Whitaker, and he will talk about the book. So I'm not going to talk too much. I know I have to be brief. I just want to highlight one more time that this book should be read by every coach from Buenos Aires to Canada to Europe to East Asia to Africa, because it's a perfect manual to learn not only the technique aspect of sports, in this case football, but also the philosophy behind it. One last mention, if you allow me, Amanda. I know after me, Randy Harris, the president of the Barbados Football Association, my friend John King, the minister, all my friends, I feel privileged to share with them, with you, Amanda, with the dean, and of course with Roland Butcher, because you are the community of sports in Barbados, in the Caribbean, and I already feel part of that community. I look forward to working with you in new projects. Last year, we had the pleasure of receiving Barbados football team, the under-17 national team in Buenos Aires. Roland was part of this beautiful mission together with Randy, with the help of John. And I believe that it's much more to be done to get closer and to continue enjoying not only our cooperation, but especially our friendship. Thank you very much, and all the best for you, Roland. Just a brief last suggestion. You use the word soccer. I understand could be some marketing things if you need to market your book in the US. I suggest you have at least 2 editions, one with soccer, one with football. In Buenos Aires, we play football. We don't play soccer. Good luck, my friend.
Thank you, Ambassador. And in Barbados and in the Caribbean, we play football as well. So we're kindred spirits there. But your words are very, very heartening. And I'm sure that Mr. Butcher appreciates your sentiments. Thank you so much, Ambassador. So up next, we have the President of the Caribbean Football Union and Barbados Football Association, Mr. Randy Harris. Mr. Harris has had a long-standing passion for football development, not only in Barbados, but across the region. And he's served very well in his capacity as a sport administrator, one of the leading sport administrators in the sport and of the game. So without any further ado, let me introduce Mr. Randy Harris to offer his remarks. Okay, unfortunately, let me apologize for the absence of Mr. Harris. He was not able to attend, and so let us move forward. We move forward then in the program to remarks from the Honorable John King, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office with responsibility for culture and the National Development Commission in Barbados. Minister King, welcome. And please go ahead and offer your remarks.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John King, Minister of the Creative Economy, Culture and Sport. And it gives me great pleasure to congratulate Mr. Roland Butcher on achieving excellence in producing this Caribbean coaching manual. The name Roland Butcher is synonymous with cricket, but how many of us knew of his exploits as a football player in England? I certainly didn't until I had the chance to converse with him about it. But he's put this manual together, and it really is one of those things that just speaks to the Barbadian spirit. As I've always been saying, wherever we go in this world, we excel. And this is just another example. So to you, Roland, I want to say congratulations. Thank you so much for this pioneering effort. And I look forward to everyone making sure, clubs, national federations, whatever, get yourself a copy of this manual, because this can only help us to move to the next level. So enjoy the evening. God bless, and keep pressing on.
Thank you, Minister King, for recording that wonderful tribute to Mr. Butcher. And so before we move to the segment where we invite our esteemed journalist, Mr. Lance Whitaker of Sports Max, to interview the author, I think it most prudent for us to hear a little bit more about the author. So if you would indulge, I would just like to read a bit of a bio on the esteemed author. Roland Butcher. In 1980, Roland Butcher became the first Black West Indian to play one-day international cricket for England. This was followed in 1981, with him also becoming the first Black West Indian to play Test cricket for England. His first Test match for England was against the West Indies, funny enough, in Barbados, the place of his birth, at Kensington Oval. In his attacking exhibition style, 20-year professional career with Middlesex County Cricket Club, he scored over 12,000 runs, 17 centuries, winning 6 county championships and 6 one-day trophies. Apart from playing the game, he is also an English Cricket Board Level 3 coach and played and coached in Australia, India, Pakistan, Zimbabwe, New Zealand, Bermuda, and other countries in Europe as a high-performance coach for the ICC. Mr. Butcher recently retired as head coach of the Academy of Sport UWI Phil campus, having been the director of sport overseeing the development of all sports, a position that he held for 9 years since returning from England in 2004, having resided there for 37 years. Mr. Roland Butcher is a director of the Barbados Football Association, director of the Barbados Cricket Association, chairman of the Sir Everton Weekes Centre of Excellence, a member of Cricket West Indies Cricket Committee, a member of the BCA Cricket Development Committee, BCA Scholarship Committee, BCA Clubs Assistance Committee, a Barbados Cricket Selector, and a member of the UWI Cricket Management Committee. He also served as a member of the National Sports Council Board, manager and coach of the Vice Chancellor's cricket team on different occasions, and the Barbados Under-15 cricket team. In addition to being a level 3 cricket coach, he is also UEFA B licensed football coach and worked in this capacity for 10 years with Arsenal Football Club and Reading Football Club. For the past 15 years, Mr. Butcher has worked for the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation and the Line and Length Network as a cricket and football commentator and analyst on regional and international sport. So with that bio, there is no doubt that Mr. Butcher is well placed to pen such a wonderful coaching manual. And we look forward to, as the Dean of the Faculty of Sports said, Volume 2 and 1 coming in cricket. So let me introduce now Mr. Lance Whitaker. But before I do, let me just say a few words about Mr. Whitaker. Lance Whitaker is currently the Vice President of Production and an Executive Producer at Sportsmax Television. He has 36 years experience as a sports broadcaster, having started at Radio Jamaica in 1984. During his 11-year stint at RJR, Lance twice won Jamaica's National Sport Journalist of the Year Award in 1990 and 1993. He was appointed sport coordinator at the Caribbean News Agency, or CANA, in Barbados in 1995 and transitioned in 2001 to director of sports at the New Caribbean Media Corporation, or CMC, the merged entity between CANA and the Caribbean Broadcasting Union. Since returning to Jamaica in 2010, Lance helped pioneer the Caribbean's first ever daily television sports talk show, the Sports Max Zone, which many of us, including myself, watch, launched in 2011. Lance has covered 6 Olympic Games and several major international sporting events, including Test and ODI cricket, World Championship athletics, Commonwealth and Pan American Games, and of course, World Championship boxing. Lance Whitaker, welcome. And I hand over to you for the portion of Meet the Author and a lovely engagement. We look forward to witnessing it. Over to you, Lance.
Well, I have to say thank you very much, Amanda. Thanks for the outstanding introduction that you've given me. And it's a pleasure for me to be a part of this project. I am a huge football fan. I played a lot of competitive cricket in my teenage years as well. So I have a lot of appreciation for Roland, not only as an international cricketer, but as we see now, someone who is penning a coaching manual for the sport in the Caribbean that is loved so much. I think there's always this debate about, which sport is truly a favorite for the Caribbean. And I guess many people say cricket, but I think if you do the numbers, you would recognize Roland and all of the guests involved in this live feed, that football holds a very special place in our hearts here in the Caribbean. Roland, first of all, congratulations. This isn't a very simple task that you undertook. And having gone through the manual, very, very impressed with how thorough it is and so on. Can you first of all tell me what inspired you to do this coaching manual?
Yeah, first of all, Lance, thank you very much for those words. That's a very good question. But what I would say is, as you know, Lance, football really is a global phenomenon it's still growing all the time. And really, I got involved and loved the sport from the time I was about, I think, 13 and a half, having migrated to England at that point in time. I fell in love with the sport. And really from then until now, really, it has been that love affair with the game that has really made me decided, look, I need to put something down to, one, really chronicle my experiences over the years in football, and also put together something that I believe that can assist my country, not just Barbados, but the entire Caribbean. So really, that was the driving force behind doing like this, wanting to give back something to the region of the Caribbean.
All right, you've explained what inspired you to do it and what drove you and propelled you to putting pen to paper. But I still have to ask the question, the process of actually making the decision to start is a huge undertaking. For the past 10 years, I've been told by many of my colleagues and so on that I need to write a book myself. And I keep thinking about it, and I'm inspired to do it, but I haven't started yet. So what really triggered this sort of industry to actually get it done? Because you've spoken about the inspiration, but that is just half, or maybe not even half, 10% of the project.
Yeah, Lance, you're right. I mean, it takes a while before you actually get around to do these things. You always have it in mind to do it, but it takes quite a long time. In this case, really, the concept really started while I was in England. Obviously, the type of coaches that I actually work with, and was something that really influenced me and really helped me to do this book later on. I mean, I was very fortunate that I had persons like a chap by the name of Mr. Alan Sefton, who has been a mentor for myself really for over 30 years. He's a mentor, friend, and he's been at Arsenal all of that time. And he really has been the one over the years that has been, pushing me forward initially in the early stages to do my football coaching qualifications, and then obviously later on to do other things. So as far back as my time in England, I really started to put this thing together. Now, it really got interrupted when I became director of sport at University of West Indies in 2004, because I came into a situation where the university for the very first time was now starting to develop, or wanted to develop, a sports department. Before I arrived, sports was run by the students, student guild. So really, I had my hands full there for many years in developing sports, and not just cricket, all sports. As director of sports, really, I was responsible for developing all sports in addition to the facilities as well. So for those 15 years that I was at UWI, in many ways, the finishing of this manual was really distracted by the work that I had to do within the university. Now, when I actually became the head coach of the academy, then I was able to spend more time with football, and we had good success with the football. And then I guess perhaps the other fortunate thing for me was that retirement was arriving quickly. And I thought, well, this is the opportune time to really try and finish this manual. So I think really within the last year of being at UWI, which would have been, I finished in about 2019. So from about 2018, I became very determined that, you know, I have to get this done because it is something that we need in this region so badly. Over the time that I have been here, what I have seen in Barbados and around the Caribbean is that, like in many other sports, we have an abundance of talent. There's no question about that. The talent is there, but one of the things that I find that we're missing is very good coach education is missing. And so I really set out to try and deliver something that can assist the coaches, not coaches who just get a coaching qualification, because the time spent on getting a coaching qualification really is not enough time really for you to understand what coaching is about. It gives you the basics of what you need to do, but then you have to work after that. So really I decided that this manual is something that I must get done because there's so many coaches within this region that requires something like this. I think the other thing that's really pushed me to getting it finished as well, Lance, is that, you know, I tried to research quite a lot of what is happening with football in other parts of the world. And as I said, while this manual is primarily aimed at the Caribbean, because that's where I am at the moment, you know, it's a manual that's really relevant really to football all over the world. So within my research, I was able to establish that a country like Iceland, you know, Iceland has a population of 350,000 people. Barbados has about nearly 300,000 people. And, you know, so there's a small difference. Barbados is 166 square miles. Yet, a country like Iceland can punch much more above its weight than, say, the entire Caribbean, where we probably got 7 million people in the English-speaking Caribbean. Now, what Iceland did to get themselves in a position where they can really challenge the world, because in terms of European football, you know, Iceland were, you know, they were next to nothing, but they paid huge attention to coach education and ensured that their basic coaches had the highest qualification. So from the age of 6, under 6 in Iceland, those kids are coached by a UEFA B licensed coach. Now, in a place like Iceland, who only has 3 months of the year they play football, the other 9 months is ice. And Iceland, up to 2018, had something like 669 UEFA B coaches. They had 240 A licensed coaches, and they had 17 pro licensed coaches within their system. So with that system in place, it was only obvious that, you know, their football is improved, because you have now got, from the youngest age, those kids who are developing, being developed by those coaches. Now, I looked at the Caribbean and I saw we've got tremendous talent, but at the moment we are bare spectators. I think we sit and marvel at the Sadio Mane and the Lionel Messi and, you know, the players of that ilk. But why can't we be on the same stage? So I really felt that I need to start something that will give us a chance that sometime down the line, we will be able to when we switch on our televisions, we can also marvel at a large number of West Indian players playing their trade around the world. We've had successes. I mean, Dwight York, John Barnes, Emerson Boyce here in Barbados, Lalu Goodridge, Russell Latipi, who is the coach here in Barbados. You know, we've had players who have played at the highest level, and obviously Ricardo Gardner from Jamaica. But in terms of a representation for a Caribbean region of 7 million people, it really is very, very small. So I think those were some of the things behind why I wanted to get this done in time, so that I can see, perhaps, I hope I can live long enough to see the fruits of it.
Very, very solid points there, Roland, and I agree with you 100% about the value of coaching. But before we get a little bit more discussion on that, and also a little bit more detail on the manual itself, a bit about your football acumen, because I heard Dr. Akshayman Singh expressing surprise that you dabbled with football for a while. You were quite a good player as well, based on what I've gathered. Talk to us about your football acumen, first of all, playing-wise, and the desire and the love that you've developed over time for the sport, because internationally and here in the Caribbean, if you mention Roland Butcher's name, people think cricket. So I just need for you, for the moment, to just sell yourself as a football boss.
Well, yes, football really has been an important part of my life from the time I was in England. Having, as I said, immigrated there as a 13-and-a-half-year-old, what I found on arrival in England was that, like in the Caribbean, where everyone is playing cricket, it is the complete opposite in England. Everybody's playing football. So naturally, as kids, you would then gravitate to that. So in actual fact, that's what I did. So I got involved with football, and and I really got back into cricket through football. But I won't say too much about that right now. But in terms of my stint at football, yeah, I played semi-professional football. It was easier to do that in the early days of my professional cricket career, because in those days, basically players were contracted April till end of September. And really the winter months, you're pretty much on your own. So it was good for me to then take up football and play football throughout the winter until the season comes around. Now, it became a little bit more difficult later on in my career when other countries overseas opened up for the opportunity to play cricket 12 months of the year. And then I would play 6 months in England, then go and play in Australia or New Zealand, etc., etc. But for all those years that I was in England, yeah, I played semi-professional football. I played for Stevenage. I played for Biggleswade. In actual fact, something that I was not aware of. There's a book coming out next month in England. I think it's called Black Football Pioneers. And really, it chronicles the first Black person ever to play for every league club in England, all 92 league clubs. And to my surprise, I was the first one to actually play for Stevenage in the Football League. So there's a chapter on that. So every player has a chapter, and all the people who've played over the time. So yes, I played, and while I was at Arsenal, I spent 10 years at Arsenal as a soccer school coach. And again, as I said, that's where the influence of Alan Sefton was with me. And I played at Arsenal as well, because at Arsenal we had an ex-professional team that played every weekend all over the country. So I played with all the great Arsenal players over the years. And on top of that, obviously I started to do my coaching qualifications. Now, as I was approaching retirement from cricket, then it became even more evident that I needed to upskill my football qualification as well. So then I decided to do the UEFA B license. And it was really while I was doing that UEFA B license that I met one Brendan Rodgers, who's, current manager of Leicester City, ex-Liverpool. But Brendan was doing his UEFA B the same time as myself. And we actually hit it off very well, because he was a young man, he was still very young, who had retired from football because of injury he was early 20s. He played under 21 for Ireland and decided at an early stage that he really wanted to be a football coach. We got on really well on the course, enjoyed our time and company together. And following the course, which was about 3 months. The course was about 3 months. About a year later, I received a phone call, and it was Brendan Rogers at the end of the phone, and he said, "Roland, I've just been given the job at Reading Football Club as director, the academy director, and I want you to come and work with me." So I thought, fine, because obviously I was, thinking football at that time. So I went to Reading Football Club, and I worked under him. I had my own team, ran my own team. And while I was at Reading, Jose Mourinho was at Chelsea, and he liked the look of what Brendan was doing. So he gently encouraged Brendan to come to Chelsea. And after a while, I then moved back into cricket. I went to Bermuda as national coach for cricket. And during that time, I also, started to spend more time talking to people like John Barnes and those guys who played football. And it became very evident to me that it was going to be very hard, the way the game was changing, for a non-professional, full professional, to really make it as a coach in football. And as you know, we all know the problems that John Barnes and Dwight York and others have had in getting a position as a football coach. So that's really steered me back towards cricket. But yes, football has been very, very important to me. Yes, I played at a high level. I have played with some very good players, and I've spent a lot of time amongst some excellent coaches in England. So having come back to the Caribbean to start at the university, the whole sporting program, obviously all that experience that I had gained over those years, I needed to bring with me. So, it was important for me, having come back here, to do that. But obviously, it was more than just cricket at the university. I had to do football, I had to do basketball, I had to do everything in terms of sport, developing the sport. So, but football also was always a very, very big part of my life. Furthermore, Lance, when you see, as you said, you made a point earlier, the number of people who play football in the region. I mean, cricket might have the culture and the history, but in terms of participation, and the love for the game, football far outstrips that by a long, long way. So all of those things really has affected me.
Yeah. I'm happy I asked you that question, Roland, because I thought I knew a lot about you, but I just learned in the last 4 or 5 minutes a lot that I didn't know. Very, very impressive resume. Now, without speaking disparagingly of Caribbean administrators and leaders and so on, I have to say that we do talk a lot in the Caribbean about what should be done and what we want to do without the issues actually being implemented or executed. Because for decades, I've always heard that your best coaches should be coaching 6, 7, 8-year-olds, early teens, that your best qualified coaches. And to be quite honest, right throughout the Caribbean, I'm not sure I'm seeing that. You just referenced Iceland and how so much emphasis is being placed on the very, very young players and the sort of quality coaching that they're getting. Do you see this coaching manual that you have done, Achieving Success, as something that can sort of force us into that direction? Because I see that in your manual, you have different categories for, 7 to 9-year-olds, 9 to 11-year-olds, 12 to 18. So it's divisional. So from an age group perspective, you have a different approach to all of these youngsters trying to develop their craft in football. Can your manual force people to begin to look at the importance of getting our best coaches coaching our very young ones?
Yes, absolutely. I think the whole idea really of the manual is to, give the coaches a direction and a structure for long-term athlete development. I mean, too often our development is very much short-term. What this manual actually does is it tells the coaches basically that one size doesn't fit all, and particularly when you're dealing with children. Children are not young adults, and unfortunately, what a lot of our coaches do, and I've been on the ground to see it, too often we ask children to do things that really are meant for adults. So what I've tried to do with this manual is, as you said, to work on the various age groups. So for the 5 to 7 age group, there is a complete program, therefore, how you coach 5 to 7 year olds, the sort of things that you do, the progressions, etc., etc. Then when you go 7 to 9, again, that is completely different because you're now adding on what they have learned before, 9 to 11s, 11 to 13s, etc., etc. So it is a long-term athlete development. So learning is taking place all the way through. And it is also structured in such a way that if you are the coach, Lance, and you have to be aware on week 3, anyone can come in on week 3, pick up the manual and know exactly what has to be done on week 3. And that really stops the coach from coming in and saying, look, I feel like doing this week. And I think too much of that happens where our coaches, they turn up and it may be totally inappropriate for what has happened before. So really the manual sets out very clearly the direction that each coach at each level should do. And in the manual, there's also 10-week programs. So I make it quite easy for the coach. The programs are there, but he has to be involved as well, because what I've tried to do with the manual is to ensure that the coach also has to put his part to it as well. So he has to do a bit of research. While the topics are given that he should be dealing with this week, he has to go away and develop the various drills to get those topics. So as you said, right from the beginning at age 5, right through to elite player, there is programs in there for each age group. So really, the coaches, if they follow this, what we'll actually see is that the players who then get to the top in their national teams will be a better quality because the foundation would have been built all the way through. What tends to happen with the majority of our sport, and we're seeing it here in cricket, is that the coach of the national team is trying to deal with issues that the player had that should have been corrected earlier in his career. And as you know, really, an international coach should only really be concerned about winning, that because he is judged by whether he wins or loses, and he's employed by whether he wins or loses. So when he has to now deal with technique and other things like that, that's a problem. So the aim really is to help the coaches in the Caribbean and help the national coaches that we can send to them a better quality player.
Yeah. Finally, as we get ready to wrap up, Roland, I know the manual is really, really detailed. I looked through it, and it's really detailed and comprehensive. But is there an aspect of it for coaches that you would suggest is something that they can't depart from? Is there any aspect of this manual that you would point to say, gentlemen and women, because women's football is now big as well, don't miss out on this part? Absolutely.
I mean, there are very clear things in there for the different age group coaches that really they need to adhere to while they're actually doing that. As I said, kids are not young adults, and the organization in terms of organizing your session, how the session should be organized, in terms of a warm-up, the main theme, small-sided game, warm down, all of those things obviously chronicled in the manual. And obviously it really tells you how, and tells each coach really how he really needs to be while he's dealing with that particular age group. Because, quite often, which is not the fault of our coaches, because it's the system they come up with, is that, a coach is put in charge of your group when he's wholly unqualified for several reasons to be coaching that group. And hence, I say Iceland because what they've done in Iceland, there is no coach that coaches a club team in Iceland who does not have a minimum UA for B. So if you have a 1 or C or whatever, you don't get near a football club coaching kids, not even from age 5 I'm talking about. So what we need to do in this region, we have to set a standard in terms of what is the minimum standard a coach must have before he coaches a particular age group all the way through. Because I mean, I'll use Barbados as an example. I mean, we have people coaching in the higher division here who probably don't have any qualifications. So while they might have been good players, you know, we're going to lag behind. So there's something in here for every coach. The coach who wants to be the top coach, the coach who just really wants to assist with the development of the player. But at the end of the day, really, what it's really trying to get the coach to do is to get the players to enjoy what they're doing. And once they're enjoying what they're doing, obviously they will want to play more.
Roland, it has been a pleasure talking to you. I must say, having lived in Barbados for 15 years, I got to understand that Eastern Parish of St. Philip produced a lot of special people, and you're obviously one of them. Amanda, I really appreciate this opportunity, and I hope everyone involved in this link digested all of what Roland Butcher had to say, because he said some very, very solid things just then.
Indeed, Lance, thank you so much. We appreciate listening and hearing the discussion and discourse between you both. Thank you so much, Lance, for that. What I wanted to do very briefly was, for those of you that are tuned in, to let you know where you can get your copy of this wonderful coach's manual. You can get your ebook from Book Fusion. Simply download the app, Book Fusion app, from the Google Play Store, and swipe that credit card, and a copy of the Achieving Excellence Caribbean Soccer Coaching Manual by Roland Butcher will be yours. Once again, you can download the ebook from Book Fusion. Just download the Book Fusion app from the Google Play Store. Also, I also wish to recognize a member of the UWI Press board member, Professor Fonjo Ayajina, who is also the head of the St. Augustine Academy of Sport. Welcome, Professor Ayajina. We're very happy to have you. So Roland, over to you as we seek to close off our virtual launch. I think it will be most fitting for you to give us the vote of thanks. Roland.
Right. Thank you, Amanda. And I think first and foremost, I would like to really thank God for really bringing us through this pandemic for 2020, which has not been easy for all of us, but you know, he must be given thanks for bringing us this far. I would also like to thank my wife, Cheryl Butcher, who has been a sports widow for some 44 years. And I really hope that, you know, she will be a sports widow for a few more years. And but I would like to thank her for, you know, the work that she has done over the years and always been there. As you know, as the life of a sportsman, he's always traveling. So the wife has to do all the work. So, you know, she basically was the one who was able to bring up all of her children. Now she's bringing up her grandchildren while I'm still involved with sports. So I would like to thank her for what she's done over the last 44 years. I would like to thank the UE Press, particularly Dr. Joseph Powell, Donna Muirhead, Kelly Williams, Karen Smith, and Nadine Buckland, really for the work that they have put in ensuring that this manual really gets out there, and the work that they will continue to do after this launch. To you, Amanda, thank you very much for being the host today, and also, you know, we have worked together at UE for many years. As you said, I've retired now, so basically, you know, we will now meet more on a social basis. But you know, thank you for the support over the years, and again, thanks for your efforts today. To Lance Whitaker, Lance, we speak from time to time when I get a call to contribute to Sports Max. I'm still always available to do that, so please make sure that if you need me, you know, you've got my number. But Lance, thanks very much for what you did for me today. I very much appreciate it. Ambassador Gustavo Pagnani, great thanks to the ambassador. Really, yes, a few years ago I met the ambassador at a football game in Barbados, and really, since then, our friendship really developed. And as a result of that, we were able to get involved with many sporting things. I think first and foremost, the ambassador got me to go to Argentina to assist with the cricket. That was the first bit. And after that, we were able to develop a MOU between Argentine Cricket Association and the Barbados Cricket Association, whereby some of the Argentine players, young players, would come over in the summer and spend some time working with our professional team for a few months. And then, obviously, going back the other way, we would send some coaches to Argentina to assist with the cricket. So that is something that has started, and that has been very good. The ambassador, obviously, is a football man, still plays Masters football, and obviously he was able to do an MOU with the Barbados Football Association. And before I vacated the UE, we developed a MOU between the Argentine Football Association and the university. So Amanda, you and others really need to, and the Dean, now need to take that forward. And also, as the ambassador said, I went to Argentina with him. We spent a week at Boca Juniors, a very famous club in Argentina. Great experience. And for football fans, it was the team of Carlos Tevez, who's back at Boca Juniors. So, Ambassador, I continue to look forward to working with you going forward, but thank you very much for what you have done over the time. Dr. Mansingh, first of all, thank you for your contribution today, for what you've done for me over the last couple of years as Dean of the Faculty of Sport. And we've also worked on a number of occasions as commentators during the cricket as well. So I appreciate what you've done for me, and I'm always here, available if you need me. To the Honourable Minister John King, John King really has been doing some excellent work here in Barbados. So I would like to thank John for what he's done for Barbados and also what he's done for me. Randy Harris, who unfortunately didn't make it today, but as you know, Randy is the president of the Barbados Football Association. I was on the board under Randy's presidency at the Barbados Football Association. He's also the president of the CFU and the vice president of CONCACAF. So Randy also did a review for me of the manual. So thank you to Randy. Professor Hilary Beckles, right. Thank you so much, really, for what you've done for me over many years, really how you have helped me to navigate university over 15 years, and even to this day, continue to do so. So thanks to Professor Beckles. Also to Russell Latipy, who's the technical director here in Barbados. Russell, I speak to Russell on a regular basis, and he has been very, very helpful. He also did a review for me of the manual, so he's fully aware of what's in there. So Russell, thank you. Also to Ahmed Mohammed. Ahmed is the technical director of Barbados Football Association. He actually lives in Switzerland. That's where he's from, and he's also African as well. But he is someone over the last few years I've got to know really well, and he contributed certainly by reviewing the manual as well, and continue to do so. Alan Sefton. Now, Alan Sefton, I spoke about Alan Sefton before. Yes, Alan's been at Arsenal for well over 35 years, still there, doing a great job. And really, I have a lot to thank him for, because, over the years, he really has been the one who's been behind me, pushing me all the way. Marlon Glean, who's the FIFA development manager here in Barbados. Again, Marlon also did a review of the manual. And obviously, Marlon, thank you for that. Dr. Carmita Duglin, my good friend, Carmita is always there to assist me whenever I need her. She has done that for many years. So Carmita, thank you for all your help. Dr. Gary Russell, who assisted with some of the things within the manual. The Barbados Cricket Association, who assisted me. The Barbados Lottery also assisted, as well as thanks to the Barbados Cricket Association. Thank you to Roland Toppin, even though it was before Dr. Toppin came, but since then he's been very supportive. IGT Global Services Limited also supported me, and that really has been very, very helpful in getting this manual to where it is right now. I'd like to thank the media who are present today and over the time who has assisted me as well. All the invited guests who have been invited to see this launch, thank you for tuning in. And once again, really, as I said too, UE Press, I can really say that they have pushed the boat out, the members of the UE Press, the work that they have done, certainly over this last year. So thank you for all of that. So Amanda, as I said, thank you very much, and I hand back to you.
Thank you, Roland. And there's not much more for me to say as we close off, but just to also acknowledge News Talk 93 FM, who graciously afforded us the platforms of YouTube, through the Google Play Store app and the live stream. So thank you to News Talk 93 FM, as well as Ms. Adrenelle Solomon, the IT admin who facilitated this Zoom launch today. Now, let me just remind all of you, if you want to purchase the manual, and I'm sure after hearing Mr. Butcher today that you would want to go out and download that ebook, you can go to Book Fusion, simply download the app from the Google Play Store, and the manual will be in your inbox for good use. So thanks all of you for joining us this afternoon. Congratulations again, Mr. Butcher. Fantastic what you've done. I'm sure that you will be leaving a lasting legacy as many coaches, upcoming coaches, and the next generations of coaches utilize this wonderful document as their Bible, so to speak, in coaches development. Thank you all, and have a good afternoon, and stay safe.
Well done. Well done.